What is going on with the combine right now? Because that's going down. I'm at the combine a week from tomorrow, getting ready to call that thing on NFL Network. Am I going to have 180 fewer people to discuss on NFL Network?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, Rich, because I think there are a couple things that the players are taking issue with here. And to be honest, like I've talked to some teams, too, that aren't happy about it. And really, like, what a lot of this is about is notice. Like that the players are finding out about this a week ahead of time. They're really upset about it. Like, and the agents are upset about it. And so the biggest issue really is that, for 2-3 months, every one of these prospects, the top guys, the guys who are invited to Indianapolis, have these teams of people around them, right? Like, so you have your nutritionist, you have your strength coach, you have your speed coach, you have all of these different guys. And the big agencies bring those guys to Indianapolis so they can continue to work with those guys while they're going through the combine. And you and I have seen this for years. I mean, like, in the convention center, you'll see, a guy late at night working on his starts with his speed coach in the hallways of the convention center, getting ready to run the 40 the next day. Like, that's a common sight. And so, like, basically what the bubble is going to do to these kids is it's going to remove them from that environment they've been in for the last 2 or 3 months by taking all of these specialists that they've hired away from them. And I think that that's a huge problem. The nutrition part of it's a huge problem. And I just think, like, a lot of the agents and the players themselves feel like they're not being put in a position to perform at the highest level, and they're being put in this position with almost no notice. And so I think that's why it's going the way it's going. And you have a handful of power broker agents that represent, a relatively large percentage of the players threatening to pull their guys out. And I think the question is going to become, like your Aiden Hutchinsons, your Evan Neals, your Kayvon Thibodeaux, those guys can probably just unilaterally decide I'm not going, and it probably won't affect them much. The guys who are put in the real difficult position, I'd say, are like the second, third, fourth round picks who really have something to lose or gain. And that's where I think these kids are in a really, really difficult position. And it'll be interesting to see what the league does to work through this. But I will say this, more than one team's pointed out to me the hypocrisy in the NFL lifting so many restrictions so it could get the Super Bowl played, yet doubling back here and putting a lot of those restrictions on kids that really don't have any power to fight it outside of this potential boycott.
The interesting thing is this is part and parcel of the combine becoming a bigger televised event.
Yep.
Is that now there's more and more people who are in the world of getting players and prospects ready for the combine, and it's a cottage industry now.
Yeah.
Right. And so players and agents are now used to having a certain way to prepare for it. And if that's being denied these players, then maybe they'll just wait for their pro days and not go to the combine, or just only do the medical part of it, which I think they're having a problem with as well. Walk me through that. Do all 32 teams have their specific team doc? So literally a prospect goes through 32 medical evaluations at the combine? That still happens?
It doesn't quite happen that way, but there are. I mean, they do. And I've written about this before, and I'm drawing a blank on the exacts, but it works in pools, and everybody's got a chance. The team doctors have a chance to talk to the kids. And so, like, some of it is definitely pooled. They're not going through 32 physicals. But, they'll get in a room, and there'll be, I think the number is something like 6 or 7 team doctors there that are sort of working as like almost like pool reporters on what's happening. And then that information is shared. So, yeah, the 30, I mean, and I think you and I both know this, Rich, like that's the most important part to the teams, right? Like, is the medical information. And that was the biggest thing last year, was making sure that there was access to the medical information. The stuff that we all hype up, us at Sports Illustrated, you guys certainly at NFL Network, the 40, the bench. I mean, that's sort of down the list for the teams. What the teams really want is the medical information and then the interviews, and So if, like players aren't going to go through some of that, that's a real problem for each of the teams. And then, you'd be talking about getting into the spring when you have an opportunity to bring in guys for visits. And now all of a sudden, like the individual visits would become very, very important. And teams would have to be, real calculating about who they bring into their building to do those visits, because, those visits are where you can get the individual physicals with the individual players.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.